Hello everyone, welcome to the TSS. In this class we are going to discuss about Django inbuilt forms. Friends, okay, so in the last class we had already studied about how to use HTML forms for collecting user data and how to store that collected data into a database by using a Django U function. All those things we saw, right? So both direction of data access from front end web page to back end database, how to store, and from the back end database how to access the available records and present into the web page in the front end are both directions of data transfers we have saw. Now Django, what Django tells is, hey developer, please listen. I am having inbuilt form support. Okay, so let me explain this Django forms to you so that you no need to worry about patiently sitting down. Okay, sit down in front of the system and type all those HTML tags, all those things. So hey developer, you don't worry, I have some inbuilt forms. Please make use of my already available forms. Okay, if you like that Django tell. So what is that forms we will discuss. So Django have inbuilt form class which provides all the functionalities of HTML forms. Okay, so in the last class we saw how to create the HTML form for collecting user data and then how to store that user data into the DB. So HTML form is a common method for collecting user data from the front end web page, right? So but Django, what it is telling is Django has inbuilt form class. Okay, so Django has inbuilt form class which provides all the functionalities of HTML forms. Whatever the functionalities HTML forms provides, Django inbuilt form class also provides. Okay, now what is the advantage of using form class, Django form class instead of HTML forms? Now using Django inbuilt forms we can do form validation automatically, but in case of HTML forms we need to do form validation manually with JavaScript. So very important point friends, in the HTML forms in the last classes we saw simple some roll number, name of the student and the branch, like that only we saw, but in real world scenarios some 20-30 columns fields will be there. So all the fields will have some type of restrictions. Okay, before going to user going to submit the data, he must and should verify that all the provided fields are correct or not, right? So he has to check once. Even though the user fails to check and submit the data, the system should not allow that form to the back end server side script, because if there is any errors in the user provided data, that error prone data will goes to the server side script and then eventually erroneous results will come. So to prevent that, what we will do is, in my JavaScript tutorials we saw this how to validate form. Okay, if you want a form field to be only a numeric field, then if you want like that, but the user provides the text input. Okay, so instead of numbers, if the user provides text, then text will go to the server and error results will come. So if you avoid that from the front end page itself, what you should do, you should impose some constraints on those fields by using JavaScript. Okay, all these things we saw in our JavaScript classes. Okay, from normal method of collecting user data is HTML forms. If you use these HTML forms, then you should validate that forms before the submitting the form itself. Okay, by using JavaScript. Right. Okay, Django is coming in front of us and tells, hey developer, you no need to use the JavaScript manually or HTML attributes manually. I had my inbuilt forms class which is very developer friendly. Okay, if you like you can use me, otherwise you can go on, you can use HTML forms and do whatever you like, right? So this has some inbuilt validations are there, friends. So in the demonstration class I will explain to you. Okay, for this you please remember these things. Okay, so by using HTML forms, what is the advantage is the validation is automatic. Django Forms acts similar to models, except forms will render towards front-end web page and models deals with database tables at back-end. Here, one important point to remember, friends. We already studied Django models. So, what Django models does? So, we will open that models.py inside an application. So, inside the models.py, we will define classes. Okay. So the class name will becomes the database table name. Okay, and the class attributes will become the database table columns, right? So that means what? So the mapping is happening, okay, at the back of the screen, right? So like that how a class name will becomes the database table name, and how a attribute of a class will become a database table column name, that mapping how it is done in the models, the same functionality will be done in the forms also. So the simple difference is the forms will map the field to the input tag of the HTML form in the front end web page. So models deals with back end, okay, forms deals with front end, right? That is the only difference, but mapping is same, the concept of mapping is same. Okay, so that is the explanation here. So it's developer wish to use or not to use Django inbuilt forms. Okay, it's purely developer wish, friends. Django doesn't come and impose a penalty on you if you don't use Django inbuilt forms. Okay, it will openly tell, oh developer, it's your wish. Okay, I am giving this much of support. If you want to take, you take, I will provide how much you want. Otherwise, if you go on some legacy way, you can go, always go, no problem, like that Django tells, friends. Okay, so if developer wishes to use common HTML forms, he can always use it by avoiding Django inbuilt forms, but developer should take care of all errors and validation checks manually, right? This is a repetition line which I had already discussed in the second line itself. So if developer wishes to use his common HTML forms, then what is the task he must do? So he must do the validation tasks and error check tasks by himself. If you use Django inbuilt forms, then all those things will be taken care by Django Forms class itself. Okay, so that is the specialty of Django Forms. And let us move to the code part. After explaining this code part, we will demonstrate this code, right? Simple, friends, very simple. In the last class, whatever we did, that thing only we are doing here only, but we'll make use of Django inbuilt forms class. That's it, right? Now, so instead of HTML forms, what we are doing is we will open one exclusive file for forms. Okay, we will name that file as forms.py inside an application folder, and we will do like this: from Django import from forms, right? So that means in the Django package itself, one forms module will be available. Okay, you please import that module here. That means forms, right? Forms class or module or the package, right? Then class, we are defining a form here. You please concentrate here. So like in the Django models what we did, that same functionality we are doing here also. We are defining class and student underscore form. Okay, we are giving student underscore form. It is underline is coming here. Let me avoid that underline. Why underline came, right? Here also no need of underlining. Now it is very much visible to you. Okay, so class student underscore form. That means we are creating the form name, right? A student underscore form. As in the case of models, how we created a model class name, that name is becoming database table name there in the concept of Django models. But here in the forms, the student underscore form will become the form name. Okay, and we are inheriting from forms.form, right? Class. So this is child class, this is parent class, and then so this roll number is equal to, we are defining some attributes inside the class. Roll number is equal to forms dot integer field. We are imposing some constraint onto this attributes. Okay, so these will map to input tags in the HTML form, right? So as in the case of models, how these attributes will becomes the database table columns, right? So mapping was done like that in the case of models. In the case of forms, the same thing here. It was rendered and mapped as input tags of a HTML form with the constraints here, forms.integer field. So if you do like this, then you no need to go inside the HTML file and so it defines the data type, all those things, right? So even the HTML5 is providing all those constraints and avoids the JavaScript for validation for most of the tasks. Okay, even though those things are happening today, but Django also provides the forms support, right? And then name is a you please visualize all these things as a front end, right? So forms dot char field, so because the name is characters, and I'm imposing some constraints like maximum length is equal to 50 only. So if you give 51st character, it will come up and say, so the maximum length is exceeding. Okay, like that. That means we are validating here itself. Okay, with the simple code forms.char field. Here also I am giving the branch. I am restricting the user from the front end to not to type more than 10 characters. 10 characters. Name more than 50 characters. I am restricting to the 50 characters only. Okay, like this we had created one student form. Okay, and how to render this form to the front end, that is the task at our hand now. Let us discuss it. So we will create one Django view function here. Okay, so in order to render this, so let us discuss. So besides this code, I am taking it granted that all the URLs, mappings, all those things was done by you, and the necessary imports was done by you. Okay, right? So I'm defining one function called get data or something like that, some function name, and then I am defining some if else block, right? So first I will explain the else block, then I will come to the if block reverse. Okay, so in that way I only you can understand. Okay, if some particular URL pattern is happening in the URL's address bar, then it will come and execute this function, and it will see here. So if the request dot method is not equal to post, then simply this block will be avoided and it will go to the else. Let me explain the else part first, then I will go and explain the if part. Okay, so else part, so this block will be executed, right? So student underscore form will be instantiated. Okay, where the student underscore form, the necessary imports must be specified at the top of the view function. Okay, from students dot forms import student underscore form, that code must be specified at the top of the view function, friends, then only it will be okay, otherwise errors will come. So students underscore form will be instantiated to the variable, and then what we are telling Django return render request. You just render this template test.html some file with the context form colon form. This is the dictionary. So this form is a key. This form is this variable. Okay. You please distinguish this form, what all those things, form, how to distinguish from all this. Okay, so you can name whatever name you wish to give inside this codes. Okay, you can give your name also, no problem, but at the server, at the front end side, you need to specify this key name in order to get the value of this one. Okay. Okay, now I had explained this one. If you didn't submit that form, then simply the form will be, that means post is not happening, then simply the student form will be imported and it will be rendered, that form will be rendered to the test.html page. Okay, then the form will appear with all these fields like roll number, name and branch in on the web page. Okay, now what you will do, so you will enter all those details, roll number, name, branch in the fields provided at the front end web page. After that, what user will do, user will click the submit button. After the submit button, this time what will happen, the request method is post. Okay, now the request is post. Now I have to execute this one, not this one, right? Then so here we had instantiated student form with the request.post data. So now we are making the student form binded to the form data, right? The which form is student form, that front end provided data to the Django form, and then it was instantiated into the form, and then now we are checking if form dot is underscore valid. That means what? So if we are checking that, this validation check we are checking. Okay, it's very simple, friends. You please see here, just one simple method is underscore valid, that's it. This function will take care of all these things, whether user provided this roll number only, or may the user provided the text data name, whether the name is properly provided, or if the user provides the number data instead of text. Okay, all these checks will be performed. So all these checks is okay, then this is underscore valid will return true. Okay, so after validation becomes true, then only all these things will gets executed. If it is false, it's simply avoids this block itself. Okay, this block itself, nothing will be happen. Okay, so and you can give some status messages also. If it was not executed, then we will make another statement of return here. Okay, anyway, forget about it. Just remember this one, right? Is underscore valid. If it is true, then Django will enters into this block. So it will instantiate the model student data model. Okay, so where the data model is, you need to specify import statement from students.models import student data. That model should be imported and instantiated like that, and then by accessing the attributes of the student data class, that means which represents internally a database table column, right? So we are storing inside that roll number. What data is stored? Form dot cleaned underscore data roll number. So where this clean underscore data comes from? What is this? So form. So we had instantiated no. That form is now having cleaned underscore data also function also. What it will consists is, it will consists all the data, unwanted characters, all those data will be cleaned. Okay, and the restricted data only be there. Whatever the constraints are we had imposed, strictly that constraints data will be there. Okay, forms dot cleaned underscore data of roll number. Okay, whatever user provided roll number will be stored inside the roll number here. Okay, in the HTML forms, name is equal to we had provided. Okay, in that name variable the data is stored, but in the Django forms directly in the attribute name itself it will take as a reference, friends. Okay, please remember that. And then like that it will collect all those data and store it into corresponding attributes of the class, model class, and then save these details and then return the confirmation message like that. So request test.html context data inserted, right? So this much of things is happened. It's very simple, friends, but for first time it may be somewhat confusing, but don't worry, as the time passes, as you practices, everything will be easy, friends. Let me demonstrate this. Okay, so we are now in the college web project. So inside the college we have college subfolder in which we are having URL files and the student application. Okay, so in the students application we had exclusively created another file called forms.py. In the forms.py we had declared one class like student underscore form, right? Whatever code I had explained there, that code is only appearing here, friends, right? So from Django forms was imported and we had created all these fields, which in turn these fields will map to the input tags of the HTML forms. Okay, after rendering I will inspect the page source and I will show it to you how the Django is doing the magic, right? Okay, so in the students application one forms.py file is created. Inside that this code will be created. So this code is what the student.form becomes the form name. Okay, and then the models is as it is. We had those models and the view function. Inside the view function I had created one view function, right? So get form, request, all these things I had explained in the PPTs, right? So saved data. So for first time, if you first log in, if you first access this method to the URL, so at that time request is not the post. So total if block is avoided. Okay, it will not execute. Then it will come to the else block. So student.form. So the student.form we had imported. So from students.forms import student form. That means students forms.py. Inside that forms.py we have this student underscore form. Okay, we had imported that and we had instantiated to the variable, and this form is passed in the form of dict to the test.html. So where is the test.html? Inside the templates. So template.html. So this is just normal HTML. You please remember, so this form tag must be provided by the developer only. Django will not provide this form tag. In between these form tags, Django will provide everything. Okay, but the form tag you need to provide, and the submit also. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, CSRF underscore token should be there after the immediately after the form tag, and then here I had used one variable. Okay, so this variable is the key that was injected by the Django view function. Okay, so the form, so this form is now what? It is a student underscore form class instantiated, right? Okay friends, so that will be come here. Okay, and the status will come here, right? So now I am going, so this is our last class. I am get form, Django Forms. So now I need to update the URLs files. So Django Forms is the path. If you give this path, then views.getForm, this method will execute views.getForm. Okay, so now it's not a getForm, it's a Django Form. Forms. Okay, here you can see after giving this URL pattern, what will happen? You please visualize Django request to response cycle inside your mind. So it will first go and check the urls.py file whether the Django Forms pattern is there or not. Yes, pattern is there. Then forward that request to views.py file get form function. Views.py file get form function is this. So it will be rendered. So unfortunately that request post method is not available. Then the else block will be executed, student form will be instantiated, this form is passed to the test.html. okay, the test.html here. Okay, and it will appear like this. Okay, here we didn't mention the roll number name branch as a HTML form, but as a Django form class we had mentioned it. So if you inspect this page source, you can see all these things. Here you can see HTML tags. This is the head tag. Inside the body tag we have form action. So up to this we had mentioned, right, in the form, and the input submit button also we had mentioned. But here you can see input, we didn't mention this input tag, but we only mentioned in the forms.py as roll number is equal to forms.integer field. This much only we had mentioned, but after rendering into the front end, that mapping is happened. So that means what? That means I am trying to show it side by side. Okay, no problem. So the roll number field is converted into or mapped into input tag. Okay, so here input tag is used. Here roll number, input type number. So input type number is the HTML equivalent of this one, Django class forms.integer field. So here what I am doing is converted into HTML language. It's a language conversion, friends. Simply in one word, it's a language conversion. A name, roll number required. So if you place that it is required, if you don't give that one, then the form will not submit until and unless you provide that data. So it required is the constraint that tells that this field is important. Okay, here you can see that name is also coming up, but we didn't mention any name here. You please see, just I had mentioned the maximum length, that's it, but the name it automatically take as branch name roll number. Here the maximum length 50. You please observe the maximum length there is no underscore, but in the Django language we have underscore. So in a simple conclusion, the forms class will be mapped to the HTML inputs with their corresponding constraints. Okay, so the simple is this is user friendly, that's it. Okay, Django is making this support very high for its developers, right? All those things will be automatically rendered, friends, right? So and appeared here itself. Now if you click this one, if you provide all this data and submit, after submit what will happen, that is also we had mentioned in the test. So in the action we doesn't mention anything. Okay, so now we need to mention it. What create. So in the views, in the create, all these things will happen automatically. Or so this is not the criteria now, because we had defined one post method. So in the form specific, okay, we need to mention that one. So for now let us keep this as empty only, because so wherever this form is executing, that form Django Forms is there, no. So if you submit, after submit also the same pattern will be there, but this empty pattern will be now makes execute the same method, but this time because we had used the method is equal to post, then the if block will be executed and all this data will be pulled from the front end and pushed to the database columns, right? Okay friends, let us give something. What we will provide, some 9. Guido Van Rossum is the name, is a great inventor of Python, friends. So the person who created lakhs of jobs for almost lakhs and crores of employees all over the world. Because of him, there are so much job opportunity for all developers, and so much integration, smooth integration is happening between the systems. All those credit will be gone to Guido Van Rossum, a beautiful person who created Python, because of which I am talking to you and you are listening to me. And he actually gives us the opportunity to do so. So such a great person. Branch, the branch is which branch? Python, right? Okay, so 9 Guido Van Rossum Python, and after clicking submit, what will happen? This time we are submitting all these data by usage of post method. So post, here you can see data inserted. Okay, so why this message is coming? Data inserted. Status, we had given it as a dictionary to the test.html. Inside the test.html, the status we had grabbed that one, that's why it is appearing. Okay, now so let us check whether this record which we had inserted by using the Django Forms is available or inserted in the database successfully or not. If you click this one here at the last, these are all the old records here. Yes, this is our hero, roll number 9 Guido Van Rossum Python. right? So this was successfully inserted, right friends? So let us insert some other thing, some 10, roll number 10. Hmm, I will Django. The guitarist Django Reinhardt. Uh, Subject branch is Django. Okay. So if you click this one, so data inserted, and if you want to check, click this one. So available records at the last Django Reinhardt branch Django. That means these two records was inserted successfully by using Django, right? So you can see how simple, without adding this input type, name, max length required, and coding, all those blah 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 will be taken care of by our Django itself in the form of simple, just 3 lines, very readable code it is, right? So this much of flexibility Django is providing, friends. Okay, so it's always your wish whether to use it or not. Okay, this is it, and in the next class we will discuss the uh, CRUD operations, friends. Okay, CRUD operations we will discuss. And one thing I need to note is, here Django has super documentation, friends. Okay, so you need to go to the djangoproject.com. So if you have any doubt, you can always refer to this one. If you have any doubt in HTML forms, you can refer to its documentation. For every programming language and for every web project, there is a documentation, friends. Not only Django, for Node.js, for Laravel in PHP ecosystem, all those web frameworks comes with documentations. So it's a good habit to refer to the documentation if you have any doubt. Okay, Django is documentation is very super, simply super. Okay, so this is it, and in the next class we will concentrate on Django CRUD operations, how CRUD operations will be performed using Django. CRUD means create, read, update, delete, all the database related transactions. Okay, okay friends, till then, bye bye. Yours Veera signing off. Thank you for listening, friends.